What's up, Bradley?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
This is exciting. I don't think you've been up here, have you?
No, this was the first time today.
Okay. So, obviously, it's kind of off the cuff. It's unscripted. Life unscripted. That's my
Yeah.
life, as you know. So, we've been cousins for how long?
Look-alike cousins.
I've heard that from multiple people.
Yeah.
So I know a lot about you, but people listening or watching, they don't. So kind of tell me where you're from, what brought you to Richmond, what you do, your fam.
Yeah, so I originally grew up in North Manchester, Indiana, which is about 40 minutes west of Fort Wayne. And it's a small town of 6,000, at least when I was there. And graduated college, moved out to Southern California, working at an urban youth camp, doing their web and video stuff. And then later met my wife, who was from Southern California. And I was working a remote job and decided, I got some family back in Wayne County. My mom and stepdad live in this area. So we went on vacation in, I think it was September of 2014. And when we got back from vacation, my stepdad was like, hey, our friends are selling their place. You might be interested. So through 12 counter offers, we were moving to Wayne County by that December. So loaded up our Penske truck and traveled with a dog, a cat, and 3 chickens from Southern California.
That's wild. So
Yeah.
12 counter offers to get your house?
Yeah. And I about made the mistake of including the cost of a tractor in the sale. But then I realized, I don't want to be paying on the price of that tractor in property taxes for the rest of my life. So I just kept it a clean, straight deal.
What did the family, how did they feel moving here from there?
Well, at that time, we had a 9-month-old daughter and my wife from Southern California. And it was a big transition, but it was during the cold, snowy winter. So my wife really connected with other area moms through the Birth to 5 program. And so that was really a way of being able to get out of the house and meet other people in the area. And so over time, we've just dove into the community. I'm on the Kick soccer board in Centerville. And at that time I worked remotely. So I just down the street had an office at the Innovation Center and was involved in the local tech community.
Wow. So with your work, what did you start with when you moved here? What type of work? So you're 100% remote?
I'm now back to 100% remote. When I moved here, I was 100% remote, doing some consulting work for a company out of Austin, Texas, and building cool stuff for their online and mobile banking platform.
You say cool stuff, like that's how I would say it, what you do. But you're like way super intelligent. Have you ever taken an IQ test?
No, I haven't.
I wanted to ask you that today. Because you say that and you say the words like vibe coding and stuff like that, but what you do is just extremely
Can't complain about something if you don't provide a solution or an option and stuff. And so that's also how I came up with backyardchickenlaws.com. So we do some farming with pasture-raised chickens, and then I offered chicken rental packages. Well, I found out that there's no central location for those chicken ordinances. So I was like, might as well create the Rotten Tomatoes of chicken ordinances so people can submit the information about their chicken ordinances, and it automatically gives the city or the HOA or the community or the county a letter grade. F if you can't have chickens, A+ if you got a lot of chickens, and you don't have to pay a permit fee and stuff. So, built that, and then people can also create their own ordinance and submit it to their local representatives.
Wow, that's cool. So like a proposed ordinance
Yeah.
to say, hey, could you
Yeah.
pass this?
Yeah. So just mainly trying to utilize technology with the information that's out there, but being able to put it in an easy to digest fashion.
Hmm. So tell me more about the farm and the chickens, and then what you the products that you've developed over time.
Yes. Yeah. So we live on an 8-acre homestead. We don't have any tillable land, so I don't have a big tractor or a plow or different things like that. But I really try to use the animals to manage our property. I found out that 8 acres can be a lot of work, and so I accidentally became a sheep farmer because our lawnmower was only rated for 1.5 acres, and we had 8 acres, and so I ended up picking up some sheep. Realized they're really good at mowing the grass, so 3 sheep ended up turning into 35 at one point. And now I'm trying to work on developing a mobile grazing unit of my flocks. So that way I can take them to off-farm location and help them graze and manage other land. And then the chickens, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, moved from Southern California with 3 chickens and raise pasture poultry, sell at the local farmers market, and then working on, we have a farm stand that people can purchase the farm eggs from our farm stand as well.
We got a comment on Facebook.
Oh, hey, Kevin. Thanks, Kevin. There's no S on my last name, but thanks for saying that I'm a
It
great
autocorrects.
candidate.
It probably autocorrects.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really about trying to utilize the animals to help manage the land. So I try to rotationally graze them so that they can move around and get more grass. And previous years, we've probably overgrazed our property a little bit too much, and so that's why I want to try to move them off farm so that then they can help manage and keep weeds down. We've seen each other at Roscoe's.
Right. We go there
Many times.
Sometimes.
And this last week I had a conversation with someone that is working on a project of getting rid of local invasives. So I ended up Googling what Indiana invasives do sheep eat. And I showed it to him and he was like, that's pretty impressive. So we might do some collaboration down the road with that.
So the invasives aren't bad for the sheep, right?
There's some that you have to be careful of, but there's a good portion of them that they can handle pretty well.
I remember you asked me a while back about doing solar fields.
Yeah, solar grazing. The concept is a lot of times solar fields go on previously tillable farmland, and in some areas they have their sheep graze the grass below. I checked the local area, and a lot of the companies that manage the solar fields, they've built their solar fields not with livestock in mind. So it's not really adaptable, but I think his name is Greg Gunthorpe in northern Indiana. He does solar grazing. And then I can also lease out my sheep if they want to go on a road trip to Texas. There's some solar grazing units out there. And so, I mean,
Would they stay at the Hilton on the way down or anything?
I don't know, but like I don't speak sheep, but man, the stories that they'd come back with.
Pedicure.
But the sheep that I raise are hair sheep, so they
I think that was my glasses talking to me.
The sheep, they shed their hair naturally, so they don't have the wool. Because I found out early on that I'm really bad at shearing sheep, and so made less work for me.
Really?
Yeah.
So do your kids do 4-H?
Yeah, they do. And you know, the best way to win your breed is be the only one showing that breed at the county fair. So the kids go out there. I always tell people the sheep that we show are working sheep. So we just basically wash them, and try to get them looking nice. We don't shear them. We don't dock their tails because that's not how that breed's supposed to be. But when we get them back from the fair, you can see which ones went to the fair because like they're really white compared to the other sheep that are out in the pasture. But yeah, the kids have a lot of fun showing the sheep.
How old are they?
We got a 12-year-old and then 9 and 7. And the 7-year-old, when she's in mini 4-H. She's determined. She was like, I'm gonna go and show the sheep by myself. And so she was out there, just showing the ring and having a good time.
Mm-hmm. Wrestling a sheep.
Yeah.
So all of this, when did you decide you wanted to get into politics?
Well, I think the seed was planted when it came around the wheel tax discussion. And part of it, I sat in those meetings and I realized, I felt like the general voters and residents of Wayne County weren't getting all of the facts in place. So, for example, there was an individual that presented some numbers of, let's say, in 1995, a great all machine cost $300,000, and then they presented the numbers in 2024 that it'd be 300% increase. But I was looking at those numbers, and those numbers did not capture the buying power of that money from 1995. Typically, money back in the day is able to have a lot more purchase power than money today. And so when I factored in consumer price index, which is really the average amount that milk and eggs and
Right.
bread increases over time, and it ended up only being 146,000%. And so my goal with running for Wayne County Council is to be able to bubble up those facts and figures so that everyone is kind of on the same page. With the wheel tax, I felt like that the decision was being rushed and that we had more runway to be able to come up with a solution. And I felt like that it was being rushed because so really when you boil down the issue, there was this extra pocket of money that the state was going to give to Wayne County for their roads and bridges. And we wouldn't be eligible for that money if we didn't implement a road tax or utilize the tool in our county for doing that. But I personally felt like that the decision was being rushed. We have to hurry. We have to get this in before the deadline. And we weren't able to have like a really well thought out process. So that's why I've been running on this campaign of building accountability and transparency. And earlier you said that I'm a pretty smart guy. And as I mentioned in the Western Wayne News Q&A section, I said, I don't know everything, but I'm always willing to learn and learn something new every day. And so I feel like I have the tools to be able to figure out situations coming down the road. And it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky to navigate, but I want to be able to make sure that everyone has the proper information so that they can get the lay of the land. And that kind of delved into building some tools that are available on my website. So I kept on looking up the meeting minutes for county council commissioners and then the workshops. And yeah, they upload them to the website, but there wasn't a way of looking up that information very easily. So I ended up building a tool that parses those meeting minutes in about 15 seconds, and it allows people to see who voted for what on what topics, to be able to identify those items by keyword or searching by a topic in order to really just add that transparency. You can also identify, let's say someone was presenting something at a meeting, you can see what meetings they attended. So it allows you to sort of have the breadcrumbs to be able to do your research, to be able to find out different things. And I know that people can show up 2 meetings. I saw that at the library proposal. That was a packed house. But there's so much information out there that it's hard for people to digest it. And so I'm trying to create a tool that makes it easy for people, everyday people, to be able to see the information, stay on top of the topics that are concerns and issues for them.
That's crazy. See, what's wild, you showed me a lot of this, and it's so much better than these government websites because, like you said, you can search and find within 15 seconds. It populates.
Yeah.
They need that. Everywhere needs that, actually. But
yeah, and for a brief moment, when I lived out in Southern California, I did work for a city, and I worked in their data side of things. And with government, that experience taught me that there's a lot of waste in government. Typically, with most contracts, you have to get 3 bids on different things. And I had built a solution that would display the meeting minutes right next to the town council video, and pretty much solved like 80% of the thing. But then they ended up going with a vendor that was really expensive, accomplished about 50% of the issues that we were having, and created about 70% more work for the workers and stuff. So yeah, just trying to utilize technology to make things more transparent is kind of my goal.
so is that kind of like the platform that you're running on, or?
Well, so I really want to have people engage in civics, and if people don't show up, they can't have the opportunity to have their voice be heard. And so I feel like, bubbling up the information, transparency is not a party issue. It supersedes that. And at the end of the day, when I get elected, my constituents are going to be from all different parties and stuff. And so that's why I'm kind of like highlighting on these things. If I can help fill in the gaps, make it easier for people to be more engaged, be able to have civil conversations. I mean, many times there's meetings where I feel like there's no discussion on the topic and the decision's already been made behind closed doors. And so when I worked for a consultant, that gave me a perspective. So like in some of my jobs I've had where vendors come in and they give the sales pitch. Well, many times in those sales pitch, from my consulting experience, I can identify the smoke and mirrors in their sales pitch. And so then I end up asking thought-provoking questions of like, okay, we have this system behind the scenes. What you're pitching to us, how is that going to be able to connect with the system that we already have in place? And so I feel like some of those thought-provoking questions and ideas will be very relevant at the county level, at the county council level, being able to ask those thought-provoking questions to bubble up the facts and figures to the surface.
Boom. Mic drop. Yeah, no, that's...
These mics are expensive. I don't want to drop them.
I think these are the Temu version.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure.
Okay.
But, they came off TikTok. It was a TikTok deal.
They still sound pretty good.
How do you feel about China?
China?
Yeah, TikTok.
Oh, I haven't made any purchases with Temu and stuff, just because I'm not comfortable with putting all of my information into that system with their terms of service.
They already have it.
Yeah.
They know your blood type.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. So talk about the position that you're running for, because a lot of people don't know the differences in certain, and I don't. So certain positions.
Yeah.
And how many people is on this council? And
Yeah. So my understanding is that so there's township boards, there's township trustees, and then it trickles up. There's commissioners. Currently there's 3 commissioners, and they go out to the communities, work on the interlocal agreements, and they also help approve vendor contracts and claims for expenses. And then the next layer up is county council. county council works on balancing the budget and also approving whether or not positions are able to be put on the HR website and hired out. And so it's really about being fiscally conservative and balancing the budget. But I feel like so many times, one meeting you can see like Wayne County has no money. Then the next meeting through local tax abatements or at the county tax abatements that there's like $6 million given for, $3 million given for 6 new jobs. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's really putting the burden on the taxpayer. And I feel like there needs to be a balanced approach. And so on my website, under the tools section, I also put a tax abatement worksheet on there. And what that did was it parsed the information that the auditor sent in 2025 to the state. And that gives a lay of the land of the tax abatements that are currently on the books and how many years left there are. And so in that process of looking up that information, I don't know what mechanisms are in place in order to keep those companies accountable, because they may make an agreement of, okay, we'll hire 6 new jobs, but what keeps them from moving 6 people from another department into those 6 new jobs? So on that worksheet, I propose implementing like tax abatement rebate programs. So the county gets the money first. Then if they meet all of the agreements and requirements that they set forth in that agreement, then they're able to get it out. Another example is, let's say a factory is kind of like in the backyard of a residential neighborhood. If they do a $21 million investment in that business, that's going to jack up the property taxes around there. So maybe there could be a property tax assessment freeze for several years so that those residents can kind of cushion that increase that would occur. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot for me to learn, but I feel like that I'm data driven. I want to look at the details and figure it out.
See the numbers.
Yeah.
Make the numbers work for you. That's exciting. So you are District 2.
Yes, District 2.
And how many districts are there?
There are 4. So District 2 is the northernmost part of the county. It goes to Hagerstown, Williamsburg, Economy, Fountain City, and Webster. And then it slivers down a little bit. I think like my grandmother lives at Friends Fellowship. So she was really excited to be able to vote for her grandson in District 2. But yeah, so it kind of comes down a little bit on 27, like Spring Grove area and stuff. But if you go to my website, votebradleywood.com, there is a tool on there that you can put in your address and it will let you know if you're in District 2 or not.
That's exciting. How many people are running against you?
Just one.
Like a good race. Love a good race.
Yeah. It's and last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, there was a good Q&A in the Western Wayne News, and I put a link to that on my Facebook page, and basically they asked all the candidates various questions, and then so it has some good information on there.
That's exciting. You ever going to run for president?
Probably not.
Come on, the White House needs chickens.
I'm trying to think. I feel like back in the day I did submit a proposal to like rent chickens to the White House, but I never heard anything back.
You went down that rabbit hole?
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole one time where I DM'd them on Instagram like, y'all need a virtual tour? Because they do have a virtual tour of some of the White House, and I'm like, ours would look better.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Hey, you don't know if you don't ask.
I know the rabbit holes, but that would be funny. So when is election? When can people vote?
So
Where
the
can they vote?
primary is May 5th. So that's election day voting period. But then people can vote early. I think currently at the courthouse people can vote. And then there is early voting. So actually I created another tool.
I feel like every time I see it, Roscoe's, you're like, hey, look what I created.
Yeah,
Look what I vibe coded.
it's candidates.votebradleywood.com. And basically what I did was I took that tool of am I in District 2 and I expanded it bigger and bigger. So you can put in your address there and it will overlay all of the voting boundaries, all the way from U.S. Congress down to township, trustee, and board. And then it overlays that. And then when you put in your address, you can click view polling places. Then it takes you to another page and shows you early voting places and day of voting places. And currently, if you Google Indiana Wayne County candidates, that page I think is coming up on the third search result.
Nice.
Yeah.
You kind of know what you're doing when it comes to websites.
Well, just trying to improve the experience.
Yeah. So, no, that'd be exciting, especially to see if like something like that got implemented.
Yeah.
To where there is a lot friendlier dashboard for people to find the live streams, the minutes, everything all in one place.
Yeah, yeah. And if you go to one of those meetings, it has the link to the actual raw minutes. It has an embedded video to WCTV's live stream. And then what's cool is, and then it has all of the list of the items that were voted on. But what's cool is YouTube recently added an ask button to their thing. So now what you can do is you can view the video, but click the ask button and say, I'd like to see this, or basically search by keyword, and it will give you the time code of where that comes up in the video. So it makes it a lot quicker to be able to dive in and find the information.
So it like scrapes the script and finds it in the script.
Yeah, I think it's partly with the automated transcript that it has, and then it basically is like a ChatGPT for YouTube.
Love some technology.
Yeah.
How do you feel about these AI data centers?
So I think there are some exciting opportunities with the energy side of it. I know Indiana is working on prototyping some of these small nuclear reactors to be able to generate it. But there's the other side of the coin is the cooling side. And the biggest concern that I have is that these data centers are kind of popping up even when local communities are saying no. And a lot of that ends up happening through shell corporations and this or that. And yeah, so to me, that's not very transparent.
Right.
That's not a good process.
We know you don't want to, but
yeah, so I think local communities are starting to have those conversations. I know over in Connorsville, the local officials were setting up an agreement ahead of time so that they kind of knew what their non-negotiables are. But I think there's also other technology that's out there that might be more efficient, that's kind of on the horizon. And so do we build a huge data center requiring all of these acres with potentially older technology, or do we wait until it can fit a lot smaller? Because technology typically gets smaller. But yeah, as the Wayne County Council goes, I think there's a lot of discussions that have to happen before data center companies are knocking on the door.
right.
But I personally, what I see now with the information that's out there, I don't think it's a good deal, and it uses a lot of resources. And I mean, our area will even be impacted regionally because a lot of those electric utilities are regionally impacted. And so if data centers are using a whole bunch of energy, it has to come from somewhere.
Well, I read something somewhere where a lot of them were starting to be required to start their own energy sources. So wherever they're setting up shop, they have to set up their own power plant. So that's just, and I know it's not directly impacting Wayne County Council right now. That I know of. I don't think any data centers chasing Wayne County. But I could be wrong. But I like, when you hear, because of the lack of transparency, like you said, when they come in, they're not really as transparent. They're not really as accepted because they're not as transparent. They might not be bad, but because the way they're not pitching it.
Yeah.
What you don't know, like if a building just popped up behind your subdivision and it makes a lot of noise and you don't know what it is, you're going to go bonkers not knowing what just came in there.
Yeah.
And not having your voice heard and considered when it comes to something like that. But
yeah, and the energy, they may provide their own energy, but what happens with the cooling side, and that can impact the water and other things.
Oh, yeah.
So like I've seen where in the meetings they say, "Oh, it's a closed loop system." Well, that's just to get the vote through the door, but then when you boil down into some of the details, it may not be closed loop, and it may impact generations ongoing.
like there might be a loophole in that contract. How do you feel about I-70 being a toll road?
So that was the other thing when we moved here. We didn't realize how loud a highway could be. So we live really close to I-70. I personally am having difficulty comprehending all of the improvements that they would have to make in order to make I-70 a toll road, because at least in Wayne County, I-70 is the connection point to so much of Wayne County. And I was talking with an elected official, and he mentioned that, if you have a toll road, you can't siphon off just local traffic exemption and stuff for that. But there may be the possibility of just having the toll road be for the semi trucks that end up causing some of the damage and other things. And I know in Indiana, we have a really high gas tax. Well, from my understanding, a lot of the truckers fill up in Ohio and fill up in Illinois and bypass that gas tax. So I'm not in favor of I-70 being a toll road. But yeah, I'm hoping with I-70 being a little bit smoother, that it should become quieter. But over the years, I've seen more and more semis going on it, and it's so I do think that third lane is needed.
So that's what's happening right now.
Yeah. And I think probably in the next couple of weeks, I think we're gonna get to drive on some of that new asphalt in the median lane from, I think, US 27 to 227. I get some of those alerts from NDOT.
Of course you do. No, that'll be great when that gets put back together. I feel like it's been going on for a long time. The orange barrels.
Yeah. Now, I do get very fascinated with civic engineering and stuff. I don't know if it was because of like Tonka trucks and other things like that, but the area, I think it's past 27, and they're just like filling in that dirt stuff. There's so much work that has had to be done because there's two areas where the roads go underneath I-70. Mm-hmm. And so that's been kind of fascinating, just seeing how they're doing all that work there.
So backing up, kind of more hyper local, the 1% food and beverage that passed in Richmond
Yeah.
Was that Wayne County? Or was that just Richmond?
That was Richmond.
And then Centerville.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if it's going to see right here, but
A little bit.
the concern that I have is that taxes are kind of contagious. So once one municipality or one governing body hears about a tax that's available, then that can spread. And the thing about the Centerville one that I was kind of frustrated about was that it was presented that they must pass it in order to hear about a grant coming down the road, that they need to have the tax in place in order to be eligible for that grant.
To just hear about it, grant.
I'm not sure the details on that, but it appeared to me that it was kind of putting the cart before the horse. And someone on my campaign Facebook page mentioned that, really a grant is a tax from somewhere. Like if you trickle it up, whether it's coming from the state or the federal government or different things, somewhere that grant most likely was a tax. And so I understand that you can't cut to prosperity, but I think there needs to be a balanced approach. We need to really analyze what things government is involved with, because I feel like there's so many community partners that if it's a choice between the government doing it and a community partner doing it, 90% of the time, I feel like the community partner is going to do a lot better job. They're more robust to be able to pivot and adjust to the needs of the community. Yeah.
So part of the 1% food and beverage getting passed was kind of blamed on SB1, Senate Bill 1.
Well, so SB1, my understanding is that that funding is going to get kind of constricted at the local level, and so SB1 really kind of, to me, is like a rob Paul to pay Peter type of thing. It starts off with reduced property taxes, but then that ends up causing less funding opportunities for the various municipalities. And so then that gives them the tools down the road to be able to turn on a local income tax. So from my understanding with the 1% in Richmond, it was mainly geared towards the new development of various programs and things that the Parks Department is working on. And so that's for that portion. In Centerville, that 1% is really to try to build out the items that were earmarked for Centerville with the Wayne County strategic plan. And on there, they mentioned adding sidewalks, maybe adding some lights, and then a park on the south side of town. And so I could see the 1% being necessary if vital services for the government is at stake. But what they're proposing using the money for is for additional things that might not be necessary or urgent. And I feel like that Centerville businesses and restaurants are just now kind of recovering from the pandemic craziness. And I feel like that kind of makes it more difficult for those businesses to thrive.
Well, I agree with everything you said. Fast forward 3 months, people are going to totally forget about that when they're stuffing their face at Pizza King. They're going it's crazy how the perception is. But no, I agree with that. Something that I thought would have been a better route versus SB1, the state rep to the north, he came down here and he's talked to me about stuff before, and he actually had a proposal. Now it was a little more crazier. So whenever you're trying to make a lot of changes in one swoop, people are going to get scared. It nicks property tax altogether. 0 property tax, right? 0. And then it implemented a service tax because we don't have a service tax on services.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you went out here and get your oil changed at this automotive center, you're paying for the staff to be there. You're paying for the oil filter and the oil, and you're paying a sales tax on the oil. But then you would have a service tax in there. And that would capture travelers. That would capture people from out of state as well as in state, that service tax. And I forget the numbers, but he was going to have it at a certain point to take it up and then tear it back down to where it would be about the same amount coming in as there would have been from property taxes. But obviously, that's a big change.
Yeah.
So, but it wouldn't be such a loss. Like with SB1, we're at a loss. So then every community, every county is getting burdened with having to implement a tax if they want things to maintain or be better.
Yeah. So the challenge with property taxes is that, you know, everyone's trying to carve out their little bit of paradise through home ownership, different things like that. And what's kind of crazy now is that with the price increase of everything, with those Trump accounts for kids, basically that means that someone has to have a 401k like investment in order to afford their down payment on a house someday.
Is that crazy?
Yeah. And so it's like when someone purchases their house, they never really own their house.
No, you're paying rent.
As long as they're paying
You're paying rent.
Taxes. Yeah. Yeah.
You're paying rent to the state.
Yeah. So there's a lot of challenges out there, but I think it's important to be able to listen to the people, make sure that process is transparent, and navigate those challenges.
So I am feeling that you're probably really good at, I mean, you're kind of like me in a way where you have like 5 things going on at once and you're building some crazy technology and here's a website, but you're good at taking each little speed bump and compartmentalizing everything that goes with it, and then figuring out the nuts and bolts behind it and how to deliver it to constituents in a transparent manner.
Yeah. I was also working on a tool where I could basically use it as like a grading system for things coming down the pipeline, to be able to explain why I voted one way or another on upcoming topics if I get elected on May 5th for Wayne County Council. That way, I'm accountable for the decisions that I made. Right. People are informed on why I made the decision I did, and how I think that can help Wayne County as a whole.
That's crazy, man. Good stuff. Real good stuff. You got a lot of notes written down over here. Did we cover everything?
I think I just want to highlight that in this process of running, I've learned that everything's connected. If you think about it, school boards, local communities, county, state, everything impacts everything else. So I think the important part is to have those honest conversations and be able to have dialogue. Because if we shut down those lines of communication, nothing good is going to end up as a result. So that's kind of my message of what I've been learning in this campaign process. Yeah, I want to be able to serve Wayne County at the Wayne County Council level.
And you can find his automated chicken waterer at TSC?
No, it's not at TSC. It's on farmerbrad.com.
I thought you had it there.
I had it at Rural King for a period of time.
Rural King.
And it was online and stuff. And then It is available at Agrarian in Indianapolis. They have a store that carries it as well.
Oh, so it's in a brick and mortar out there?
Yeah, and actually, it's also at L&S Lumber off of 38. They have one there as well.
How does it work?
So it's a 2-gallon bucket. You hook it up to a garden hose, and it has a float valve, and then it refills automatically. And basically, that came out of working 40 hours a week. If I could solve half of the problem of the time commitment for taking care of chickens, I can make it easier. So that's kind of how it came about. And then it's a great way of offsetting feed costs. So I can get more chickens. And as a result of chicken math, 10 chickens can turn into 40 in no time.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, let's see, we met, how long ago we met? We met through the drone stuff.
Yeah.
And then one day you were like, hey, you want to go to Gary V thing next week or next weekend?
Yeah, I had, Gary V had said, text him if you live within 100 miles of Indianapolis for VCon. And so I did. So I got 2 free tickets, and I was like, well, I think you'd enjoy it especially since you named your cat after him.
That was a good experience, man. Because let's see, I stayed 2 days, or did I only do 1 day? I'd stay 2 days because you came out for the first day.
Yeah,
because I had that hotel. I did a 2-day thing.
Yeah.
And we met Drew Barrymore. We met Young Gravy, John Taffer.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that showed up, and it was pretty cool at the stadium.
And we got to go down the slide.
Yeah.
On like a potato sack skin or whatever that's called.
Yeah, I think the slide was like 3 levels up, and it was actually a very efficient way of getting down to the first floor.
The data guy over here, it was very highly efficient slide. The most efficient slide I've ever went down. Well, thanks for coming and doing this.
Thanks for having me.
If there's anything else, now you're not going to get one single vote since you're on my live stream. So, but it was efficient.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, until next time, brother. Good luck.
Yep. Thank you. Would you like a pen?
I love a pen.